Hi everyone, I'm Carrie Donegan. Welcome to Radical Age Reversal, where we are in the book Eat to Beat Your Diet by Dr. William Lee. Here's this great book. So we continue on, and we are now in the section on farmers market. So I'm really excited because it's summertime. So I feel like the timing for this is divinely inspired because we couldn't have done it any better if we planned it. And I assure you, when I started this book, I did not plan the chapters by the seasons we would be entering into. So thank you, God, for a little blessing here when it comes to timing. So, where are we going to start out? I want you to start out in chapter 6. We're on page 128 of the book. And he talks about, let's just talk about a general overview when it comes to what he's calling the fresh market. And he starts off by talking about smart shopping. So I want you to think about where you live. And if you had to walk to get your food, where would you go? Would it be a neighbor, a backyard, a local market, a supermarket, a superstore? Or in reality, is it impossible for you to walk to your food? And that may be a modern challenge. And so, unlike in the past where we grew our food where we lived, now we are very dependent upon transportation and mass global movement of food and sources. But I think there is value in eating as local as possible, especially if you are like me in the Northern Hemisphere and you're moving from the colder months into the warmer months where you're going to see some local crops developing. When it comes to things, for example, like honey, that's something you definitely want to get local because the germs that you're actually fighting, the antidote for that is going to be in the local honey, not so much from honey that comes from many beautiful places around the world. It may not have the specific elements that you need for your own body defenses. It's also true about food. So when we talk about food and we look at the book, one of the sentences that jumped out at me is on page 128, where he says, it is a privilege to buy produce from vendors who have a direct connection to the goods they sell. And I think one of the things you'll notice in a small market environment, in a place where the people who work handle the food, they're involved in the food, maybe growing the food, or just making sure that they're knowledgeable about the food, you're going to get a better quality product because the people who are connected to the food that you're buying care. And don't discount that. So I'm going to give you a couple of challenges today, and they may seem a little disjointed, but I promise you there is a way for you to pull them together. So I'm going to do the overview of the challenges. First, I want you to consider herbs as part of your daily diet, not just fruits and vegetables, but herbs. And along with herbs, I want you to consider the essential oils that come from herbs, things like oregano, thyme, marjoram, different things in the mint family. So fresh herbs and essential oils. I want you to have at least one of those at every meal, whatever it is. The second thing I want to challenge you is to focus over quality over quantity. And so even though you may feel like you have to eat large amounts to see the benefits, it's really not true. And when we deal with essential oils, it's even more important to remember that those are so potent that we're looking at 1 to 4 drops per experience, right? I don't like to use the word dose because it sounds like something that's pharmaceutically driven against danger. And so we're not worried about the dangers of essential oil. We're trying to find a good absorbable amount. And when we look at a good absorbable amount, we're looking at 1 to 4 drops of that. So that's challenge number 2. And challenge number 3 is going to be an apple a day. And with a little cinnamon, I'm going to show you how this is going to be extremely beneficial. All right, so let's get started with challenge number 1. He talks a lot about in the fresh market chapter how herbs are really important when it comes to delivering those micronutrients in big amounts. So herbs are small plants, but they're really powerful and they're packed and they're not meant to be eaten in large quantities. I see people making salads with herbs, and when you look at maybe the greens to herb ratio, the herbs are never going to be the bulk of the salad, right? They're going to be an enhancement to the salad. The same thing if you're thinking about essential oils. Now, if you want to use the fresh herb, and I highly recommend that you do, especially when they're in season, is to take a small amount, chop them up, and put them in your salad, in your stew, in your stir fry, in your sauces, whatever works in your recipe. But in essential oil, I want you to think of the same thing. I want you to pick maybe one or two of an herb-based essential oil and use one drop in your cooking. Okay, you're not going to overwhelm your food. I promise you, if you put more than one drop of oregano in anything, it will overwhelm. So one of the things I like to do is actually make my own vinegars that are enhanced with essential oils and my own olive oils. And so this is super easy and you can play around with the amounts, but it's usually 20 drops of essential oil to 4 ounces of carrier oil or olive oil or whatever the oil is you're using for your salad dressing. So again, that's 20 drops and it can be combined like 4 drops of basil, 2 drops of oregano, 6 drops of lemon until you get to that magic number of 20 drops. And then you're going to add 4 ounces of olive oil or avocado oil, something healthy. Okay. We want to stay away from those high industrialized seed oils. Okay. So if you're buying anything in a really, really giant quantity, unless you're going to an Italian market where you're buying bulk, high quality extra virgin olive oil, chances are if you're buying big quantities in your grocery store, you're getting an inferior product. And you may even be getting something that's been made in a lab. It hasn't even been naturally made. So you have to be really, really careful. You probably want to spend, and this is where I think the challenge number 2 comes in, which is you want to go for higher quality over higher quantity. Right. So you go into the market, you go into the specialty store, and you find the best olive oil that they sell. You talk to the person who's selling it. Why are they choosing to put that in their store over another brand? Ask really good questions and you'll become an intelligent consumer and you're going to see that your body is going to respond really positively. Okay. So, and then challenge number 3 has to do with apples. So today we really want to take a deep dive into apples, and I'm going to pair them, no intended, with 2 essential oils that I love. One is cinnamon and the other one is a MetaPWR. So how are we going to do this? First and foremost, I want you to get that essential oil, either one of them, the cinnamon or the MetaPWR, into your body before you consume the apple. It sets your body up for success. So there's a couple of ways to do this. For those of you who like the taste, you can definitely do this sublingually, which means to put it under your tongue. You're going to get full absorption into your bloodstream with bypassing the digestive juices. Now, if you're worried about it numbing your lips or you really want to be precise about getting under your tongue, you can use a bottle dropper, which I don't have with me right now. I'll bring one next week so that you can see it. But one of the things I like to do is actually just very carefully put it under my tongue. And you can feel the drop, at least I can, under my tongue. Now, if you can do this while you're prepping your food, and give yourself a few minutes, that taste will subside. Because some people will complain and they'll say, I don't want all of my food to taste like MetaPWR, which is a valid, point. I understand that completely. Mm. Now, my tea tastes, of course, like MetaPWR. It no longer tastes like the oolong that I just made. So it's the same kind of thing. Like, do I really want my mouth to be vibrating with that oil all day long? Or right before a meal? Maybe not. So the second thing you can do is actually put it in a capsule. So take an empty vegetable capsule, and I have done this on camera many times, so go back to previous episodes and just put one drop in the capsule and take that. And guess what? You don't have any of that taste in your mouth. Now, is it going to go right to your bloodstream? No, it's not. It's going to encounter some digestive juices. You're going to lose some of the health benefits, maybe, but it will definitely start, it starts to absorb right away, right? So the minute that vegetable capsule starts to dissolve, you're going to have absorption even in the tissues in your throat. And as of course it goes into your stomach, it will get absorbed. So I don't want you to worry about that. For those of you who like the soft gels, which are already pre-made and they're enteric coated, so they do bypass a lot of those stomach acids, you could get the MetaPWR soft gels. That works too. Now, same thing goes for the cinnamon. Now, this is an either or an and, right? The essential oils you can kind of do the way you want to. One of the things I really like cinnamon, so I may just put this under my tongue anyway because it tastes so good. Okay. Mm, it's really, really good. Some people will tell you it's super, super strong. I like that. If you don't like that, again, one drop in a capsule. Now, since I'm here speaking with you on YouTube or in a podcast, I'm not eating right away, so it's fine. I think if you're going to eat apples and have that lovely cinnamon taste in your mouth, it's just going to enhance the apple taste. For some people, it's not going to do it for them. They're not going to be happy with this. So you choose capsule or sublingual. Both are great. Both are options, but I do want you to have that essential oil in the body before you eat the apple. Okay, so let's go on to apples and talk about them as pharmaceuticals. That's what he calls them on page 130. So he's going to talk about a lot of pharmaceuticals, actually food as medicine. And he starts with apples, which I think is great. You know, I think most of us know that old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And there's a lot of truth to that. Actually goes into a study that talks about how women who ate 3 apples a day lost a considerable amount of weight compared to a control group that was eating other things. And so, and same calories, right? So it's not about the calories necessarily, it's about the kinds of food that you're eating. And the study was done on 7,000 people. So we're talking about a pretty good sample size, I think. So that is has meaning to me. Um, I I absolutely love the idea of eating apples to reduce body fat, to improve digestion, to improve your microbiome, to convert um, increase your actual metabolism, right? Converting white fat into brown fat, increasing thermogenesis. And he actually goes into the history of apples that they came from the Tian Shan Mountains in China. They did not originate in other parts of the world. So they are Central Asian origin. And they were very, very small. I notice now a couple of places are actually starting to sell these tiny apples. Now, I haven't done all my research on it, but it seems to me that there seems to be some benefit in eating apples that are smaller as opposed to these, giant kind of Honeycrisp apples. Now, he calls out 3 apples when he talks about the apples that he buys. And one I love, a Granny Smith apple. One I hate, and maybe because I grew up eating them as a kid, but he talks about red delicious apples. Ugh, never liked them. That's the only thing my mother ever bought. I don't know why. They are the healthiest. So if you can get a red delicious apple and you like them, buy them. The other one is called Reinette or Reinette, Reinettete. I don't know anything about those apples. I'm going to look them up and try to find them in the store. But when are you going to buy your apples? You're going to buy your apples in the fall when they are naturally coming to fruition. Did you know that some apples in the grocery store are as old as 2 years old? Yes, they put them in very special cold storage. So they're not rotting, right? So when you go to the grocery store and it's June and you see all these apples, just know that those apples were picked in the fall. They were not picked yesterday. And so they were like preserved, but they're still being sold as fresh and they're not. And so I was really excited to see he has a different suggestion. And he says, and this is especially for women who are postmenopausal or going through menopause, which I thought was great. And he said for weight loss and weight maintenance after menopause, they did a study at Florida State and they gave 160 postmenopausal women 2 dried apples to eat every day for 1 year, just 2. So, guess what? You can eat dried apples in the summer. Okay. I would put them in scones. You can put them in your kefir or kefir. You can put them in your yogurt. You can eat them just plain. You can put your little cinnamon oil on them, which would be super yummy. But I thought that was really, really cool. And the result was weight loss over 3.3 pounds per year, which was great. And the apple benefits were also detected by blood tests. Apple eaters had lower total cholesterol levels in their blood, and the decrease was seen as early as 3 months after the women began eating the dried fruit. Okay, but remember that 90 days. I'm always talking about 90 days. 3 months. They didn't see the value of eating the dried fruit for 3 months. They had to stick to eating those two pieces of dried apple. That's it. Two pieces. Okay. So quality over quantity, eat seasonally, and try to get apples into your daily routine. So in the fall, I would say, so I'm talking about North America now. So if you're from another market, you're going to have to skew this for your own market. But in North America, I would say start eating your apples in August. There's some beautiful early apples that come in, especially the little ones. I'm living in Ohio right now, we have lots of apple trees. Great chance for you to like grab some of those local apples. So I would say August, September, October, November, perfect season for apples. Once December rolls by, you want to switch to citrus, right? December, January, February, March, those are your citrus months. That's when you're going to eat oranges and grapefruits and tangerines and clementines and mandarins, all that kind of really good stuff. And then in the summer, springtime, this is what we're getting now, right? Like right now it's June in Ohio, so we've got strawberry season in full bloom. So that's what you want to eat. You want to eat what's coming in fresh. Even if it's coming from California or it's coming from Florida, it's still coming as close as possible. And if you can eat your local fruits, that's even going to be better. Now, do we peel our apples or don't peel our apples? And he's saying you want to peel your apples, but you want to eat organic apples. And this is why. They found that even if they soaked the apple in bleach, it didn't get the pesticide off. The only way you could get the pesticide off the apple was to soak it for 15 minutes in baking soda. So that's the best way to clean your fruit, by the way, is wash it with baking soda. Just get a big tub of water, throw your fruit in with baking soda, leave it sit for 15 minutes, and then eat it. Rinse it off because like, especially with strawberries, I notice if I don't rinse it off well, I have that baking soda taste, which is fine. It's not going to hurt you. Probably actually good for you, the sodium bicarbonate. But what they found was the pesticide had gone into the fruit. 20% of the pesticide had actually leached into the fruit, and there's nothing that you could do for that. So it's really important, again, that we try to eat local, try to eat organic, and try to eat in season. That's going to be really, really important. And then if you want to keep eating apples all year round, which I would recommend, switch to dry. Just like I love preserved fruits. Do not, what's the word I want to say? I guess don't discount the importance of jams, especially if they're not loaded with preservatives. If they're homemade, they're going to be great. Preserved fruits. I love like preserved lemon peel. Some people preserve watermelon skins, whatever it is, but preservation is different than like that cold storage fresh. They're not the same. So you're going to actually be able to concentrate the nutrients by preserving things over just holding them in cold storage and bringing them forward. And I'm not sure there's been enough studies probably done um, on what cold storage fruit looks like. I'd really love to read those. I haven't had a chance to do that. I don't know how many are out there. You know of any, go ahead, put them in the comment section. I'd love to hear more about that. But we've reached the end of our episode. I'm so glad that you joined me. I love being with you. So here's to breaking the limits of age and living each day with vitality. Keep thriving, and I'll see you in the next episode of Radical Age Reversal.